Hello guys, welcome to a new video on Tower of God New World, and in this video we're going to go over an improved version of my calculator. So if you remember, I made a calculator some months back when we were still wondering which main stat to run on slot 5. So I made some tests and created a calculator based on those to compare the two main stats. And that calculator was not really easy to use for people because it was not really clear, like interface wise, and also it was embedded in my main spreadsheet and you could not edit it, so you had to copy it over, like make a copy and then edit that copy directly. So it was quite tricky to use, and again, not really that user friendly. So I made some improvements. I removed it from my main spreadsheet, and you can see it here that I now made it clear which fields you have to edit or you can edit. So yeah, this is just an improvement. And I also added an additional thing, which is set and stat comparison. We're going to go over what that is in this video as well. And yeah, if you're wondering where you can find this link, you can find the link to this new spreadsheet in the description box down below, or if you go over my main spreadsheet in the other links tab, you will find the stat calculator here added as well. So when you open it, you will be redirected to this page. Now you don't see it, but in the top right corner there is a blue button with like use model or something. I have it in Italian, so I don't know in English what it's going to say, but yeah, you have a blue button to click. Now I just clicked on it and we will see that we'll be redirected to a copy of that single tab that it will be created in your own Google Drive. In here we can make all the changes that we want, no problem, and it's going to be your own private copy. Feel free to change it however you want. If you want to look at the formulas and stuff to see if there are any mistakes, because I cannot guarantee 100% that the value we're going to see are going to be correct, but I think they are pretty accurate, and by testing with some values I think the results made sense, so it should be fine. But if you want to look at if you want to look how things are working, just unhide the additional rows and columns that are now hidden. If you're just trusting me for some reason, just feel free to just use it and see how it works. So here the idea for the slot 5 calculator is pretty simple. You mainly want to remove slot 5, obviously, because we are trying to see which stat is better, so we cannot really include those main stats and substats in the mix. Substats potentially, but it's impossible for two pieces to have the same values, so yeah. And here we want to take all the values we see here, like the crit rate, crit damage, pierce, obviously the relevant one, not the other one. I didn't put physical or magic for obvious reasons, because it depends on the unit. But we want to pick the relevant one, and then physical resistance, because that is also on slot 5, and I wanted to show how much damage you're losing out on if you go the resistance route, and also how much damage taken reduction you gain, let's say. So in here we're going to add a 44% crit rate, which is quite low. I should work a bit more on it, but okay. We have a 77.5% crit damage. We have a pierce of 37, and we have a physical resistance of 62. We could count cell as well if we wanted to, at which point I would say count it as a 6%, not more than that, just because in a 1v1 you're only getting 6%, but up to you. If you want to count it as a 30%, you can do that, entirely up to you. But okay, with these stats, we see that we have, okay, I'm going to break down the columns of the output first. So the damage increase is the damage increase over base, and base would be physical resistance, because this is the damage you do without any damage increases. Like physical resistance is not going to increase your damage, so this is our base. Pierce is going to deal 59.7% increase over this base damage, and crit rate main stat is going to deal a 32.6% increase in damage over base. So this is the first column. Okay, I hope it's clear. The second column is a bit trickier. So basically, the physical resistance row is going to be compared to which of the two options have the highest damage. So in this case, it's going to be compared to Pierce. And by running resistances, you would lose 37% of the damage that you're dealing with Pierce. So let's say with Pierce, you're dealing 1 million per attack. With physical Pierce, you would deal 37% less than that. Something like that, okay? Then we have Pierce and crit rate. These two are going to compare between each other. So Pierce is going to be compared to crit rate, and crit rate is going to be compared to Pierce. So Pierce deals 20% more damage compared to the crit rate variant. That's pretty much it. This is how you kind of want to read this. Then we have damage taken reduction. Obviously, crit rate and Pierce have no damage taken reductions because they do not affect it. But by running physical resistance, you're reducing the damage you take by 97.3% because you reach the 99% resistance cap. So yeah, this is more or less how it works and the kind of information it provides. Which one to pick, obviously up to you. And if you want to go for 60% more damage over the physical resistance and lose out on 97% damage taken reduction, that's entirely up to you. But yeah, we're going to see also in the below tab how this could work and what the exact impact is. But yeah, that's entirely up to you. Make your own decisions. If you have evasion, obviously this one is more seems cooler. If you don't, this one is probably the better option for a unit like Joaquin in this scenario. But then it all depends on the unit we're talking about, team compositions you can run with them, etc., etc., etc. Now, this was just to explain the base thing that was also included in the previous calculator. I didn't mention the enemy stats, but you can obviously work on them. In Adventure, enemies won't have crit hit resistance and crit damage reduction, so this is more for PvP if you want to have a sort of look at that as well. Or just bosses, if we do know those stats. I don't know, but there are some, so could be an option. And the resistance one is just the resistance of the enemies you are facing in Adventure. I would still recommend going a bit higher than the actual value shown, because obviously you don't want to like build a set for now. You want to build a set for a bit far in the future. So now I have like a 69% resistance enemies in Adventure. I could try with a 75 or even 80%. And we can see that obviously Pierce gains value and crit rate loses it compared to Pierce. That's pretty obvious. Now, one additional thing to take into account here are the buffs that I was not taking into account before. So in here, you could consider the uptime of the buffs. I was like the first version I was remaking also took into account uptime, but it was too difficult to kind of quantify. Like, how are you going to quantify how frequent a buff is up, unless it's one of the permanent ones, and that's okay. But the other ones, it's like hard to tell if it's going to be 60% of the fight, 40% of the fight, 20% of the fight. So taking into account uptime was a bit tricky. And in this case, we're only considering damage in the sort of burst window when we add buffs here. So let's say we have a yellowy that gives the 40% crit rate increase. This one would further make Pierce more valuable. Like, you're not gaining more damage with Pierce, if you see here, because this 40% is also applied to the base value. So this report is not changing. But what's changing is the value of crit rate itself. As you can see, running running resistances or running crit rate increase, the difference is only like a 10% increase in damage for the crit rate. Really not much. So yeah, this is kind of the idea behind it. Now let's put it back to 0%, or the change would be really too small. If we have, for example, a Vargarv that decreases by 30% the physical resistance of the enemies, in certain scenarios, this is going to be like a 30% resistance decrease. And in those windows, actually Pierce lost value because there are diminishing returns in that if we also get Pierce or resistance decreases from other sources. We also have to take into account that this guy has a 60% physical resistance reduction in his kit. So we are going to take that into account as well. Sorry, let's go to 90%. So 30 plus 60. And with the stats I have currently, crit rate main stat will be 5% better than the Pierce variant. But you also notice that the physical resistance and Pierce ratio, like Pierce is only 26% more damage than physical. And you can now see why Oakin is run with physical resistance. This is pretty clear at a glance if we look at it this way, taking into account also the debuffs that he has in his own kit. So before it was way too simplistic, if you want to say it like that, but now you can also account for buffs. Let's say we also have a Red Mask Varian, we have a 16% here, and Pierce further loses the advantage over physical resistance. So yeah, this is more or less the idea. You can feel free to play with it and try to see the different variant. I still wouldn't recommend going crit rate increase in these kind of scenarios because it really depends. We will have ways to increase the crit rate anyway. So I don't know. In general, Pierce is always better. But again, check your own stats and make your own decisions based on also how you're going to move your build forward. And yeah, that was it for this lot 5. Now I want to briefly talk about the last, like the new tab that I recently added that I think it's going to be more interesting if we want. Let me just re-equip the whole set. Now here in the tab below, I'm going to add all the information that I already have here. So we have a 56% crit rate, 77.5. This really sucks. I should increase it, but okay. Then we have 40.5% Pierce. We have 109 magic resistance and 102 physical resistance. And yeah, now the way we can use this second table, we have two options. The first one is just looking for improvements on an existing set, and this is what we're going to do right now. And the second way is just comparing two entirely different sets to see which one gives which kind of benefits. So if we want to look for upgrades, we can just copy over the same stats to the set 2, then go over the individual pieces. Here we can see we have this piece with a 3.5% crit rate, 7.5% physical resistance, and crit damage increase. Now, if we want to, I don't know, look for a better piece because I don't like this defense increase, and this physical resistance with 2 hit only got to 7.5, so it was kind of sad. Let's say it gets to 7.5 with only 1 hit, and the other hit goes to crit rate that gets 2.5, which takes it to 6%. So 2.5 increase would be 58.5. So that's a 1.86% increase in damage. And also the crit damage increase is a bit low. We can try a 7%. Let's have a 78.5. So this would be a slightly better piece that would give me a 2.2% damage increase. But let's say we lose the 7.5, or yeah, let's say we entirely lose the physical resistance. So that would be, let's say it's only 7% to make it easier to write here. So let's say we have a 95% here. We're going to take 400% more damage than the other variant. And this could be like, what do you mean? How is that even possible? That is possible because the last percentages that approach the 99% are going to have the most impact. Because like every increase now from 95, like we have a remaining 4%. So 95 to 96, that's a 25% damage reduction or stuff like that, I think, yeah. So you have to pay, like you have to take that into account. Really, really important. Well, obviously we would also have to actually change the resistance of the enemies, but in this case I only change crit rate stats, not Pierce, so it doesn't matter. The percentage won't change. That would have been different if I had like a 4.5 increase here. That takes me to a 45%. This would be an 8.6% increase in damage, while if we put the previous version, that would be only a 6.7%. But yeah, you get the idea, guys. You have to compare or to see where certain upgrades are going to take you, or also if you are in doubt how much a 1% increase in physical reduction, like in physical resistance, would change your actual damage taken, you can also check it here. Now the other option you can use this for is if you want to go, let's see, with a different kind of set. So now obviously you could compare with a damage build or something like that, but first let's just compare it with another build that still resistances like this one. And here I have, okay, well, I don't really care about these values because everything above 99% is not going to be taken into account here. But yeah, we have a 46.5% pierce in this version as compared to the 40.5% of the other one. We have a 48.5% crit rate, and we have a 73 crit damage. So the damage increase with this build would be at 0.96% higher than the other one. Okay, interesting. I was actually thinking the other one was going to be better. So yeah, this is more or less how you can use this. You can compare two sets and see, okay, which one of the two will give me the best damage, the best mitigation in damage taken, etc., etc. This is more or less the idea. I hope it will be helpful to you guys to use this kind of tool. And again, if you see any mistakes or anything that doesn't make sense, let me know. I will try to address it. And yeah, if you like this video, please drop a like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.